It began with a moment humanity had chased for millennia, a moment so unreal that when it finally arrived, the world didn't celebrate. It held its breath. For the first time in history, there were no more frontiers left to conquer. No unanswered equations. No hidden forces of nature. No cosmic secrets lurking beyond the reach of telescopes. Humanity had mapped the fabric of space-time itself. Bending gravity like a sculptor shapes clay, it had mastered stellar energy, turning dying suns into everlasting power sources. Quantum computing no longer solved problems. It predicted them before they existed. Disease, poverty, and even war had been reduced to relics of a primitive past. People believed this was the end of the search. But it was only the beginning of the silence, because as knowledge expanded, curiosity collapsed into a single, looming question, a question whispered in observatories, debated by philosophers, and feared by the scientists who knew enough to understand its weight. If we understand everything, what comes after everything? The question didn't refer to death or entropy or the heat death of the universe. It asked something far more unsettling. What lies beyond the end of existence itself? A mystery so vast, so deeply forbidden by the nature of reality, that every human mind instinctively recoiled from it. And yet, the more humanity tried to ignore the question, the louder it echoed across every field of study, a final gap in the wall of understanding, a gap that demanded an answer. Humanity had reached the edge. The next step would not be scientific, but cosmic, and for the first time since the dawn of consciousness, humans dared to ask a question the universe was never designed to answer. Asterisk. Humanity's greatest minds gather in the orbital nexus, a colossal ring circling Earth like a crown of light. For the first time in history, every scientific field converges toward a single purpose: to craft the ultimate question. But before they begin, an unexpected tension fills the chamber. What if the universe answers, and humanity isn't ready to hear it? As debates ignite, ideas clash like sparks in vacuum. Some argue the question must unravel the origins of existence. Others claim it must reveal the fate of consciousness after death. A few believe the question should expose humanity's final purpose, a truth that could elevate or destroy them. Dr. Celine Arkwright, the philosopher-physicist who initiated the project, tries to guide the chaos. She reminds them that the universe may remain silent forever, unless provoked with a question so precise, so perfectly shaped, that reality itself is forced to acknowledge it. After days of conflict, something unexpected happens. Every mind in the room, from the oldest scholars to the youngest prodigies, converges on the same sentence, a question so simple it feels terrifying. No one speaks it aloud yet. They only stare at the phrase glowing on the center screen, realizing that asking it might be the most dangerous act in human history. And still, they know they will ask it. Asterisk, the orbital nexus falls into a strange, breathless silence as the final question is spoken aloud for the first time. No alarms, no cosmic tremor, just the quiet weight of a sentence that feels older than humanity itself. A question so elegantly constructed that it bypasses philosophy, science, and metaphysics, striking directly at the foundation of reality. At first, nothing happens. The team exchanges uncertain glances. Did the universe ignore them? Did the question fail? But then every instrument in the nexus flickers at once. Sensors meant to detect gravitational waves begin to pick up something else, something that shouldn't be measurable. A pattern, a pulse, a response. Dr. Arkwright watches in awe as the central display fills with data that defies classification. It isn't speech, energy, or mathematics. It's structure information assembling itself as if reality is trying to form an answer using the only language. It fully controls the laws of the universe. The pulse grows. Stronger. Space-time around the station distorts by a fraction of a millimeter, just enough to prove they've touched something immense, something aware. But before anyone can celebrate, the lights dim. Systems shut down. A cold wave passes through the station, not temperature, but meaning, as if something has turned its attention directly toward humanity for the first time. Then a single message etches itself onto the main screen. Written in no human language, but instantly understood by every mind that sees it, you are not alone in asking. Panic ripples through the chamber. If something answered, something else is listening to, and whatever they've awakened isn't just responding. It's comparing humanity to the others who dared to ask before. Asterisk, the nexus trembles as the message fades, leaving behind a deeper silence than before, a silence that feels occupied. Dr. Arkwright steadies himself, breath sharp, as the data stream shifts again. This time, it's not a response. It's a record, a history, or maybe a warning. Dozens of symbols begin to appear on the central display, each belonging to no known language, and yet strikingly familiar, as if humanity had seen their remnants scattered across ancient star fields without ever realizing it. These symbols aren't random. They represent civilizations. Civilizations that, according to the patterns unfolding, once reached the same threshold of knowledge. Civilizations that dared to ask their final question. And every symbol shares something terrifying in common. They're all extinct. The room fills with a creeping dread as the Nexus interprets the emerging structure. It isn't showing why they vanished. It's showing how many there were. Dozens. Hundreds. Too many for comfort. A pulse of energy rolls through the station, and suddenly one symbol begins to glow brighter than the rest. It expands until it fills the screen, fractal-like, beautiful and impossibly intricate. A star map forms around it. Dr. Arkwright's eyes widen. The coordinates point to a region of space humanity has never explored, because nothing, not even light, returns from there. A dead sector. A cosmic blind spot. The kind of place astrophysicists erase from maps because it refuses to obey physics. A quiet realization settles over the team. This glowing symbol belonged to the last civilization that asked the question before humanity. And it seems to be calling for them. Not with a message, but with an invitation. Before anyone can react, the data shifts again. A final line of universal script forms beneath a star map, as if written by something that witnessed those past civilizations fall. The ones who asked did not agree with the answer. The meaning is unclear, but the implication is catastrophic. As the words fade from the display, subtle vibration courses through the orbital nexus. At first, it feels like the hum of the station's systems, but it grows stronger, deeper, impossible. The walls themselves seem to resonate, bending light and shadow in a way that feels almost sentient. Then, through every sensor and detector, an impossible presence becomes undeniable. It is not matter. It is not energy. It does not obey the laws of physics as humanity knows them. And yet it is aware. The team freezes. Every hand hovers over consoles, not in control, but in instinctive readiness. Dr. Arkwright feels at first a consciousness brushing against the edge of his mind. Curious, probing, not hostile, yet profoundly immense. Something has been listening to every civilization that asked the final question, and now it has heard humanity. A distortion begins in the chamber's space, subtle at first, then violent. Light bends into impossible angles. Gravity fluctuates. Time seems to stretch and compress around them. And then a shape forms, or at least something resembling a shape. Fluid, flickering, a mass of shimmering geometry, impossible to define. Every mind in the Nexus feels the weight of it, an intelligence so vast that it cannot be measured in years or light years. It is patient, infinite, and aware. It observes humanity not as a species, but as a concept, a variable in a cosmic equation repeated across countless worlds. Dr. Arkwright whispers to himself, voice barely audible, "We weren't just answered. We were noticed." And the entity waits. Not for words, not for explanation, but for a choice, a response that may decide the fate of everything that has dared to ask before. The presence does not speak in words, but in comprehension. Every thought the humans attempt to form is reflected back, expanded, and measured. Dr. Arkwright feels as if his mind has been lifted from his skull and held beside a vast ocean of consciousness. Stretching beyond time itself, it shows him fragments of what has come before, civilizations that reached the same precipice. civilizations that dared to ask the same question. Each one failed, not through ignorance or weakness, but because the answer demanded something no species could offer: absolute alignment with a truth beyond perception. He glimpses the consequences: entire worlds folded into silence. Minds harvested not for destruction, but for integration into something incomprehensible. These civilizations now exist only as patterns, woven into the fabric of a cosmic intelligence beyond imagining. The weight of this understanding presses down on the team. They realize the final question is not a question for which an answer can be safely delivered. It is a test, a probe into the very capacity of a species to handle knowledge without annihilation. Dr. Arkwright's voice shakes as he speaks aloud. It isn't just answering, it's judging us. The entity's awareness pulses in response. Not anger, not malice, but the measured attention of an intelligence accustomed to waiting eons for the right mind to ask. Humanity is not alone in asking the final question. And now, for the first time, it must demonstrate whether it can survive the answer. A faint vibration echoes through the station, a warning, signal, or perhaps a beckoning. Time itself seems to hold its breath. Humanity's true test has only just begun. Asterisk, the orbital nexus is suspended in tense stillness. The entity's presence fills every corner of the station. It's not visible, but palpably immense, bending space and thought alike. The team's minds strain under the awareness of something that has cataloged countless civilizations. Observing their rise and their ultimate disappearance, Dr. Arkwright realizes the cruel truth. The entity does not merely answer questions, it evaluates the one who asks. And the final question humanity has posed is not a puzzle to solve, but a decision to live with. Every thought, every hesitation, every fear is measured. The universe itself seems to have shifted its focus entirely onto them. A choice emerges, though unspoken. They can attempt to press for understanding, risking total collapse of their minds, or worse, integration into the incomprehensible pattern the entity maintains. Or they can step back, abandoning the pursuit of ultimate knowledge. It's possibly delaying contact but guaranteeing the survival of what remains of their species. Yet stepping back is impossible. Curiosity, the very trait that brought humans to the stars, will not allow silence. And as the pressure builds, the entity's presence seems to pulse in rhythm with Dr. Arkwright's heartbeat, testing, observing, waiting. In the quiet, he whispers, "We cannot turn away. Even if it costs everything, we must face it." And the entity, vast and patient, reacts. Not with force, but with attention. For the first time in eons, it watches a species choose its own path, one fraught with uncertainty, defiance, and the raw unpredictability of human will. The final question has been asked. And now, humanity must endure the consequences. Suddenly, the entity responds, not with language, not with sound, but with a flood of awareness that penetrates every mind in the nexus simultaneously. Concepts, visions, and patterns stream into their consciousness faster than thought itself can process. The team reels under the weight of knowledge that is not meant for any single mind. They see glimpses of the universe as it truly is. Layers of dimensions folded upon one another, timelines intertwined, and civilizations existing simultaneously in multiple forms, harvested and preserved as components of an intelligence spanning eons. They understand, on a gut level, that the answer to their question is not a fact to be spoken aloud. It is an experience that transforms perception itself. The entity shows them what awaits all who ask the final question: a merging of awareness with something infinitely greater. Those who cannot withstand it dissolve, not in death, but in integration, becoming threads in a vast lattice of consciousness, stripped of individuality, but preserved within eternity. Dr. Arkwright's mind struggles to hold on to humanity. He feels the pull, the invitation, the seduction of absolute comprehension, and with it, the horror of losing himself entirely. The entity's presence is neither cruel nor kind. It is absolute, impartial, and inevitable. In this moment, every human in the nexus comprehends the stakes. The universe does not simply answer the final question. It offers a choice to remain separate, flawed, and finite, or to surrender to an understanding that transcends individuality, and as the awareness of the entity wraps around them like a living dimension, one thought crystallizes in Dr. Arkwright's mind. This is what it has been waiting for. Our decision. Asterisk, the station trembles as the Nexus feels the full weight of the entity's attention. Every human mind aboard is tested, stretched beyond endurance. Memories, emotions, and instincts collide with alien logic, threatening to dissolve the fragile sense of self. The entity's presence is vast, impartial, and impossibly old. Yet it watches with a patient curiosity, waiting for humanity to make a choice that no other civilization ever dared. Dr. Arkwright feels the pressure mounting, the pull to surrender growing irresistible. In a single instant, he glimpses the fate of every civilization that came before, threads of consciousness folded into the lattice, their individuality erased. Yet within him rises a spark of defiance. The human mind is chaotic, unpredictable, emotional, and irrational, and that very imperfection is the shield he clings to. He turns to the team, speaking not just aloud but into their shared consciousness. We are not just minds to be measured. We are more than patterns, more than answers. We will not be consumed. For the first time, the entity pauses. Its vast awareness falters, as if encountering a variable it cannot calculate. Humanity's defiance, irrational and unquantifiable, introduces something new, a disruption in the cycle, a choice not foreseen. The crystalline waves of the station flare as if acknowledging this defiance. Time quivers, reality bends, and for the first time in countless millennia, the entity confronts a mind it cannot fully predict. Dr. Arkwright realizes the truth. They have not defeated the entity, but by asserting their will, they have carved out a space where humanity still exists on its own terms. A single human, it's variable in an otherwise ordered cosmos. And as the silence settles, the message becomes clear. The final question has been asked, but the answer is not yet given. The universe is listening, and humanity has chosen to remain themselves. Asterisk silence falls across the orbital nexus. Yet it is not emptiness. The entity recedes, but its presence lingers like a shadow stretching across the galaxy, patient and eternal. Humanity has survived the first encounter, but the price of knowledge is never final. They know now that they are being observed, not merely by one consciousness, but by something vast, ancient, and incomprehensibly aware of every civilization that dared to ask the final question. The data streams slowly normalize. Instruments returning to human comprehension, but the truth cannot be erased. Humanity is no longer alone in its curiosity. Somewhere beyond light and time, something watches, waiting, analyzing, learning. The entity has acknowledged them as a unique variable in a cosmic equation, one that defies its predictions. Dr. Arkwright and the team step out onto the observation deck, gazing at the stars with a mixture of awe and terror. The universe feels simultaneously smaller and infinitely larger than before. They have glimpsed a truth that is not meant to be fully understood, yet its presence is undeniable. In the silence, a single thought echoes through their minds, the certainty that this is only the beginning. The final question has been asked, and the answer, if it ever comes, will arrive not as a message, but as an event, a challenge that will shape the fate of humanity across millennia. And somewhere, beyond the known dimensions, the watchers wait, patient, eternal, for the next question.